Remember Nickelodeon? It's a channel that is full of cartoons for kids, or was anyway, much in the way that MTV used to have music on it. It's literally the in the title of the channel, and now is 23 and a half hours a day of nonstop ridiculousness reruns. Nickelodeon has gone down the toilet, and it's choosing to spend a lot of time on activism, which again isn't a inherently bad thing. Corporations using their money to be the change that they want to see isn't inherently bad. Nickelodeon planting 1 million trees is a good thing. Nickelodeon donating money or food to food banks or whatever it is the cause that they're interested in, this is a good thing. But that's not what Nickelodeon is doing. In my opinion, they're producing outright propaganda aimed at, well, young kids, which is, of course, their audience. And parents are not having it. This week, they put out a 7-minute video on Twitter and boldly disabled replies. It's interesting to me that you could just put an L out there so easily. You know, when somebody tweets something out and then locks the replies, I suppose there are a few business cases why you may do this, but ultimately it's to avoid getting completely destroyed. The fact that you're putting something out that you know is not correct or going to be criticized is not necessarily bad, but the fact that you would silence that criticism is extraordinarily concerning. And on Friday, while I was at the Myth Informed conference, Nick News put out this garbage, which is learn the meaning of environmental racism. Now, the absolute heroes disabled the replies. And before I get into the video and the hilarious roasting that happened, we could take a look at some of the coverage. Obviously, you're going to see most of the critiques coming from the right-wing media on this, simply because it would appear that sites like CNN or MSNBC must be fine with this. Parents outraged over Nickelodeon segment that teaches kids about environmental racism. Nothing is sacred. Critics accuse the program of trying to indoctrinate its younger audience with propaganda. Nickelodeon marked Earth Day this year with a segment dedicated to teaching its young audience about environmental racism and the impact it has on climate change. CBS News correspondent and host of the special, Jamie Yuccas, began by questioning why some U.S. cities are subjected to dangerous living conditions more than others. What do these cities have in common, she asked. They're all examples of environmental racism, a form of systemic racism where minority and low-income communities are surrounded by health hazards because they live near sewage, mines, landfills, power stations, and major roads. This is hilarious. This is, again, more of the soft bigotry of low expectations. It's like Nickelodeon saying that black folks can't pick up the trash. I've seen a lot of historic black neighborhoods in Milwaukee that their lawns would put a lot of the suburban lawns to shame. Civic pride is not split down race lines. Having civic pride, having an understanding of value for the things around you, the things that you've earned, is not something that is exclusive to the color of your skin. I talk about all the time about, you know, where was BLM when that 7-year-old lost their life in the McDonald's parking lot? I didn't hear a peep from them. A lot of people of all skin colors really lack a basic respect for other human life. These people also probably don't respect their bodies, so they do, bad things with that. They don't respect others, so they treat people like garbage. They don't respect their property, so they probably, trash their apartments. Look, my parents owned 6 duplexes when I was young in Milwaukee, and their plan was that was what they were going to do to pay for college for me and my sister. Unfortunately, they never really made any money from it because tenants were very difficult to pay, very difficult to get to pay rent on time. and would damage the properties all the time. And it was just a nightmare. My parents had to sell everything and get out. But I do remember that not all the tenants were like that. We had one or two properties where I'd be down there with my dad all the time, fixing holes in walls. There'd be grease all over the back walls from cooking whatever and just letting it splatter all over the place, roaches, all this stuff. None of that has to do with the color of your skin. It means, like, do you have a basic respect? They had one property that they had one tenant for the entire time, and she was awesome. She kept her lawn. She, planted her own flowers. She took care of her place. And again, the majority of the people that rented these, I guess I was younger, so I didn't know, but I remember most of the time the tenants happened to be minorities because of where they were located. But not always. The fact, I guess what I'm trying, long story long, is that just because you live near something bad doesn't mean you can't have some pride in property. I live near a dump right now, and if the wind's right, it's a smell that you can really only describe accurately to somebody else who's smelled it. But during the summer, if the winds are right, it is ripe. But it's because dumps in big cities, there's not a lot of room for them. So the real estate, what happens is if you're by the dump, the real estate is cheap. And so what gets built there? Apartment complexes and things like that. The special caused quite a stir on social media, with critics accusing the program of trying to indoctrinate its younger audience with propaganda. Remember the good old days when the network just aired Salute Your Shorts, Hey Dude, Rugrats, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, Rocker's Modern Life, and didn't peddle this left-wing drivel? Sad, truly sad. Townhall.com senior editor Matt Vespa wrote on Twitter. Logan Hall wrote, honestly, what is the market for this? It's a children's cartoon show. Nothing is sacred. If you have kids that still watch Nickelodeon, turn it off. They run this racial and lefty BS all the time, aimed right at your kids. The controversial segment was posted on their official Twitter, but the reply feature was disabled by the network for fear of backlash, as critics observes. You cowards, at Nickelodeon, the Daily Wire reporter wrote with quote tweets. Now you can only really quote tweet as a way. That's the new ratio. And it is absolutely amazing. 700 likes. So again, I don't think that, I think it would be a mistake to think that, people that agree with this statement, even left-leaning folks, that they even love this, right? Let kids be kids. And they talk about black snow and all this kind of stuff. It's hilarious. And if you look at the quote tweets, they're just getting absolutely demolished. Here's Jesse Lee Peterson. White kids are never too young to learn that they're racist. Stop peddling this garbage. It's a tragedy when we don't care for the land, but it's not a race issue. You're only breeding kids to see race and become just that. Whatever happened to just showing cartoons? Here's Ricada Media. Nickelodeon's carbon footprint should be ended. Dear Nickelodeon, you are, well, not smart. Here's Elijah Schaefer. Make it stop. Dumbest stuff ever. Learn how Nickelodeon raps and indoctrinates kids and spreads terrible things. Do not support Nickelodeon. I mean, I don't see anybody, parents beware. That's how they destroy the minds of the young. What the F? This is Nickelodeon in 2021. This is what they're teaching your kids. And if you look at some of this trash, it's just
snow, thick soot that pollutes Pahokee, Florida. There's Cancer Alley, which is an area along the Mississippi River in Louisiana that's lined with oil refineries, and air so toxic in New York South Bronx that 20% of children have asthma.
What about LA? It's got to be higher than that. You have all of this garbage on Nickelodeon. Again, that isn't to discredit that maybe some of the things they're saying may be true, but start a news channel then, Nickelodeon. Stop trying to inject this stuff into cartoons for kids. Parents, use your channel as a babysitter, which they shouldn't, but they do. And when you do stuff like this, you should just, this is what happens. Nobody's asking for this, and you're getting absolutely demolished, rightfully so. I guess Nickelodeon is now off the list as well. I guess get VHS tapes of old cartoons when you were young and let your kids watch that. Stay away from anything mainstream like this because it appears that they don't care. This is actually like nefarious brainwashing garbage. Just awful. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.